Day here on Because Bitcoin and the second edition of Crypto World Radio. My name is Wabi, and today we have unsheathed a pretty special interview AMA with Altier and Wagme, some of the team members from Unsheathed, and it's basically a new protocol that's been making some waves over in the Ethereum LSD community, and they aim to be this new DeFi primitive with billions in TVL and really maximizing the utility and real world yield to Ethereum holders, which is pretty sick, man. So, in this space, we're going to be exploring some potential use cases from Unsheathed, things like the roadmap and also what the team has for its users. So, without further ado, guys, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be proceeding with our discussion here with Unsheathed. And I want to let you guys know that. This space is being streamed off of our YouTube as well. So, almost immediately right after the spaces is concluded, you can check that out up on our channel. And if you guys are enjoying this discussion, feel free to follow us here because Bitcoin and also Unsheathed. So, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk shop.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Cool, man. So I guess we can start off with something simple, and before we get like super technical and all that stuff. So, right now with liquid staking derivatives, we have a ton of things, not only on Ethereum but also on Cosmos, and I believe like Avalanche is trying to get into that stuff as well. So, what is it about Ethereum that attracted you guys to build Unsheath on and not some of these more like obscure layer ones that are like newer and all that stuff? What is it about Ethereum specifically that has you guys focusing dev power on that ecosystem?
Yeah, I think there's two facets to this question. Well, the first is okay, why did we, I guess, initially start on Ethereum, and two, sort of why are we continuing to remain focused on Ethereum? Um, Obviously, there are philosophical reasons to be, in ETH maxi or an EVM maxi, but I think, broadly speaking, this ethos of decentralization is primarily important to Ethereum users, and Ethereum is sort of like, if I were to make an analogy to geopolitics, Ethereum is sort of like the United States, and all these other layer twos might be, countries that don't necessarily have the same economic security guarantees, but are able to operate off of Ethereum, right? Because Ethereum is secure and Ethereum is decentralized, right? So pretty much every layer two, every rollup, every ZK, what have you, it all comes down to Ethereum at the end of the day, right? And ensuring that economic security sort of continues to exist at the base layer of sort of all smart contracts. That has been a something of great philosophical importance to us. But if you're talking strictly TVL numbers, right? Um, Ethereum has the most TVL, right? Ethereum has the most developers, and specifically for staked Ethereum, something like 15, 16% of all ETH is staked, right? So relative to other POS chains, there is, I think, a lot more of a growth potential for one, like more ETH to get staked, right? Two, just ETH's market cap generally to increase. So there's a lot of growth potential and just a great community, and a community that's just sort of molded and shaped our careers over the past 5, 6 years. So there's no place like home, I guess.
I definitely agree with you. Even myself, who was a big proponent of the previous layer ones from the last business cycle in crypto, and it's brought me to a thesis of how there's sort of these three layers of community. First is a capital asset in the way that it earns fees through things like validating transactions, securing the network, and in turn making it a productive asset. And secondly, it's this consumable and transformable asset where it's this form of digital oil, right, where it powers every transaction and really every single smart contract execution on the Ethereum network. And more recently, with things like the Chapella upgrade and things of that nature, with IEP 1559, it's sort of become this store of value asset that Bitcoin is often compared to, with its issuance and also with its revenue model and all that stuff, potentially increasing its value over time. And a lot of really bullish things coming up on that side of the ecosystem. So definitely agree with you on that part. And I think over the coming years, Ethereum is going to be like the asset that's going to be used in the realm of cryptocurrency, because I kind of separate Bitcoin and crypto. I think they're like two different things. But like outside of that, I guess we can shift it over to WAGMI. So from what I understand with you guys at unshETH, there's a lot of potential for you guys to become a standard within DeFi. So, how do you see what you guys are building impacting the broader DeFi ecosystem and its user, as far as how the liquidity and accessibility provided by unshETH benefit more smaller and newer LSD protocols?
Yeah, it's a great question. I kind of want to just bring back to the mission of unshETH. So, what we want to do is we want to help make the Ethereum ecosystem more secure, more decentralized, and yeah, so I think participation in staking Ethereum is a great way to secure the network. Right now, the the primary the basically the staking market share is sort of dominated by two or three players, and I think it would be healthy for the network overall to have many more staking protocols that users can use in order to help secure the network and promote a validator decentralization. That's sort of the overall mission. So unshETH as a product, what it does is it allows users to hold a diversified basket of liquid staking tokens. So, right now we support the four biggest. So that is actually Lido, Coinbase, Rocket Pool, and Frax. Those are the four biggest liquid staking protocols. And unshETH is essentially, call it a basket representing a share in each of those four liquid stake protocols. Basically, they're staked ether. Now, the way we're sort of thinking about our roadmap and our growth is as now it's possible for users to withdraw ETH at the network level. As Altair was mentioning, right now 15% of ETH is staked. And if you look at other proof of stake chains, it's closer to 50%. So there's a great opportunity for that market share of staked ETH to, triple, quadruple from here. So as that's happening, a lot of newer liquid staking protocols are popping up, and they come in sort of all kinds of different varieties. For example, one might be basically, copy paste Lido, which is the current market leader, but charge half as much fees as they do. And so it's a competition on at the protocol level to sort of bring more value to the consumers and reduce their fees. Another way in which a newer protocol could come and emerge is by using some totally novel technology that aims to sort of decentralize the validator set. They have these technologies called DVT, SST, so on and so forth. There's many different ways in which you can approach how you want to develop a liquid staking protocol. But for us, the way we think about it is all these newer participants are going to struggle to gain market share because they have to compete with the giants, so to speak. The giants right now being Lido, who has sort of established such a giant foothold in the DeFi space. They have like $2 billion of liquidity out in the DeFi ecosystem. They've already pursued all kinds of integrations. They're multi-billion market cap protocol. Another giant is Coinbase. nothing wrong with Coinbase, but they're a centralized entity. They have sort of the reason they're so dominant is because they have a retail pipeline of um, retail users who use Coinbase are comfortable staking their ETH there, and so Coinbase ETH is pretty much a dominant player because of that. So it becomes pretty hard for like newer players to sort of achieve the liquidity and the foothold and gain market share while competing with the giants, so to speak. This is where unshETH comes in. What we offer as a diversified liquid staking basket is as a newer protocol, if they were to enter the unshETH basket, um, even if it were at a small weight, they will sort of grow alongside us. Every time ETH is deposited into unshETH to be staked, that ETH goes towards the protocol in our basket that is furthest from its target weight. So if we add a new LST protocol, they pretty much get TVL, which is equal to unshETH's TVL times their weight in the index. Additionally, another thing we offer them is unshETH itself becomes like a liquidity hub for all these LSD protocols. So the smaller LSD protocols end up benefiting from the liquidity subsidies of Lido and Coinbase and all the other big ones. So they instantly become more liquid by just joining unshETH, and they get um, basically TVL that translates into essentially guaranteed recovery revenue for them. So yeah, so that's what unshETH is offering. It's basically a distribution platform for newer LSU protocols to gain market share, liquidity, and promote the goal of validator decentralization.
Wagme, thank you so much. Thank you so much for such descriptive detail, man. So from what I understand, essentially, unshETH isn't going to be a competitor to LSD protocols like Lido, like your Rocket Pools, or like your Frax Finance, but it's actually quite the contrary, where you guys are going to be a supplement to the overall goal, where the underlying asset with Oosh is going to capture a lot of that TVL and really incentivizing unshETH to increase their weight. And in that way, a lot of these LSD protocols are going to be increased with the amount of Ethereum staked in them. Am I correct on that, brother?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think we think of ourselves as complementary to the liquid staking ecosystem. One question we get is, would Lido be happy with what unshETH is doing? Because you're promoting competitors that are going to take their share. And my answer to that is, it doesn't really matter if the stake ETH grows, triples from here. Lido is going to make more money than they are now. And unshETH is a way to get users who haven't staked ETH before to stake their ETH. It's a way for users to use LSD protocols that they never might have thought of for the first time. Yeah, take the case of Frax, for instance. They just recently launched their Frax ETH. They're already the fourth biggest LSD protocol. And I think like something like 5% of Frax, stake Frax ETH, was essentially generated through unshETH, even though we're only a couple months old and brand new protocol essentially. So we can actually serve as a pretty important way for even the existing larger LSD protocols to benefit, because we will be bringing staking ETH to millions of new users. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, going back to to what's being discussed here, I was reading a thread that you had posted about Curve, and I put it up on the Nest, which I found pretty fascinating. And the most interesting part, you had mentioned that when individuals are building out indexes of LSDs, that promote validator decentralization and all that stuff, how it's actually more healthy for newer protocols to come in and try to take some of that market share, because then you end up in a situation where it's a monopoly. So I'd love to know the benefits that V2 is going to bring onto unshETH. given that it's being described here on the thread. But yeah, would love to know more about what it is that you are displaying up here on the thread. I found it very, very, very interesting, talking about things like curve pools and multi-stable pools and all that stuff, and even bringing up the Terra situation, which still leaves a bit of a sour taste in people's mouths.
Yeah, sure. So this sort of, I guess, sort of the biggest concern that people have when talking about an index product in crypto is they're worried that call it the least quality asset will end up taking down everything. And that's sort of what happened with Terra, which is you had Terra paired against USDC, USDT, and DAI in a $2 billion curve pool, and then one day it all just went to zero because Terra went to zero. Now, what would be really bad is if we added a brand new LSC protocol that's, it's just new, it's just like, $10 million TVL, brand new, just started a week ago. It would suck if we added that with 1% of the index weight in unshETH, and if whatever happened, like they got hacked or whatever, and now all of a sudden the whole thing went to zero. That would be a very, very suboptimal outcome, let's say. Yeah. So anyway, what unshETH does is an improvement on current systems. Basically, the current existing solutions for call it stable swaps or stable asset pools don't deal very well with the situation where you have many assets with different risk profiles and different liquidity profiles. So yeah, unshETH, we've actually created a unique mechanism where within our unshETH basket, LSCs, unshETH itself serves as sort of a liquidity pool for all the LSCs in our basket. However, we have basically what we call the maximum weight of each asset. So any one asset cannot exceed its maximum weight within the unshETH basket. So if we added a brand new LSC protocols, we might say, that LSC protocols token can never exceed 2% of the unshETH weight. So the most you could lose if that LSC protocol rugs is 2%, not 100%.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And since we're getting into the topic of what you guys have for V2, so like I've known about you guys for about a month and a half now. Shout out to Adrian NFA, a very smart individual. And yeah, you guys were very successful with the V1 product, and of course with the huge potential for this version to become a widely adopted index for all things staked Ethereum. How do you guys plan on maintaining the decentralization of the underlying asset, being the governance token? And how would that governance token play a role in setting some of the target weights for different LSDs in V2? I know that's sort of a topic that's avoided among some of these other LSC protocols.
Yeah, Altair, why don't you get started with sort of how our governance token got started, and then and sort of what our background has been so far, and then I can give some specifics on how it'll be used.
Yeah, so essentially, within DeFi, there's this new and evolving concept of indirectly paying for liquidity, and that's currently done through a number of different marketplaces such as Aura, Convex, Curve. Generally speaking, a protocol's ability to sort of gain users is limited by how much liquidity it can secure for, in this case, its liquid staking token, right? A stablecoin is only as good as the amount of curve pool liquidity I can get for it, right? In the same way, my staked ETH is only as good as the amount of ETH liquidity I can get for it. And so Algebra was designed primarily as a way for uh, protocols to get access to this liquidity in a sustainable way, right? We launched Ush initially in a very decentralized way. We were targeting users of LSDs, right? Specifically, we focused more on users of newer LSDs in order to ensure that once this token is launched, right, it starts off not being, in the hands of um, the monopolies, right? So unshETH from day one sort of was distributed to users of smaller LSDs, um, old LSDs, and really like um, what we ended up converging on with VD Ush was a way to actually facilitate protocols buying unshETH or Ush, locking it, and then being able to get a certain amount of liquidity for their LSD. And in doing so, they're rewarding stakers of locked Ush. So it's not dissimilar to Aura or Convex, but as Wagme sort of mentioned, it's specifically tailored to LSDs. Um, we also have a feature that we call co-incentivized governance mining. And what this means is that, let's say protocols A, B, C, and D are providing incentives for unshETH liquidity, then the unshETH user, right, the Ush staker, he actually earns four different tokens, right? So it's a good way of sort of aligning incentives across all these different LSD protocols. And functionally, what does this yield? If you have six protocols in unshETH, they're all paying about 1/6 the cost for liquidity. So in the long run, whether you're a big LSD or a small LSD, you're saving a lot of money, and you're sort of helping further the cause of decentralization. I'm going to pause there for questions.
Yeah, man. So do you guys fully intend to stay on Ethereum? Because from this conversation, I'm looking at you guys as sort of LSDs as a service, right? So we have things like rollups as a service, bridging as a service. So with you guys, would you be open to like opening up to other chains? I know we have blockchain modularity ecosystems like Fuel coming out and all those things. Now, I'm not a super technical giga brain, and that's why I brought you guys on here. But I know you guys have been partaking in fireside chats with a variety of protocols that are LSDs, and I think I saw you guys with Frax, and I see Frax trying to do some stuff on the interoperability basis, but over the coming year, would unshETH be open to being like an interoperable LSD as a service?
I think we already are. If you're talking about interchain, like interoperability, we actually are already omnichain. So we are currently on BNB chain and Ethereum, so you can frictionlessly move between um, both ETH and BNB chain. Um, you can go both ways. You can even mint on BNB chain. You can mint on ETH, and both Ush and unshETH are omni-chain. If that's what you're referring to.
Yeah. That's good to know, man. So on the security aspect, would you guys be able to discuss how you guys plan on mitigating risks from integrating unshETH into DeFi? I know there are things like liquidations, market movements, all that stuff. What's the like security layer on unshETH?
Yeah. So first and most importantly, unshETH is not a levered asset. It's each unit of unshETH is backed by its basket of underlying LSDs, and it's not like it's under collateralized or anything. Yeah, it's not like we use unshETH to mint unshETH. That's something that's been suggested, and yeah, generally speaking, the way we're thinking about adding new LSD protocols is it's all going to be like security first and making sure that they're audited, and whenever we add them, we'll be very conservative to add them. Like for example, if a brand new LSD protocol is launching next week, we wouldn't want 100% of their TVL to come from unshETH, even though unshETH is a very efficient distribution mechanism. We will cap the percentage of TVL of a newer LSD protocol that can be in unshETH, just to sort of manage the tail risk, that make sure incentives are aligned, and yeah, all that stuff. And the way I think about it is like, if say I added a brand new protocol with a 1% weight, right? Well, I said I added, but really the way this would work is it would be a vote to our community. VDUsh holders or stakers will decide through a governance process whether or not to include a new LSD protocol. But let's say they do, and they added a 1% weight, and let's say that LSD protocol has participated in co-incentivized governance mining, essentially giving rewards to USH stakers to influence their vote. And they decide to add the protocol. Now, let's say because it's a newer LSD protocol, it comes with a higher risk, and it ends up having a tail risk event, and going to zero. They like lost their ETH, they lost their private keys, or they got hacked, or something like that. That's sort of the worst case scenario that could happen with the newer LSD protocol. But is that really so bad? Like, we lost 1% of unshETH. We'll make it back with ETH staking yield in like a couple months. And sort of the worst case scenario, you're going to make it back in a couple months. It's not a big deal.
We also have additional yield from the redemption fees and the internal VDAMM, so might even make it back faster.
That's right. And not to mention that newer LSD protocol was providing incentives on the way in. So, that was additionally juicing the yield of unshETH stakers. So we really try to make it so that initially when a newer LSD protocol joins, it's going to be we'll be quick to integrate because we want to get these protocols off the floor, but we'll be conservative to ramp them up, well, from a risk mitigation standpoint. So we'll make sure that, they're sort of reputable, and we want them to grow alongside unshETH, not grow because of unshETH.
Very interesting conversations going on here, and as I'm learning more about you guys and how really unshETH can benefit liquid staking derivative standards as a whole, how do you guys see yourselves evolving over the next few years as far as like the broader DeFi ecosystem, and how you guys plan to balance the various sources of yield provided by you guys, like as we were discussing, the native ETH staking yield, and also trading fees from the AMM and OOSH emissions, and really all of that stuff to ensure the unsheathed long-term sustainability and growth. And just want to comment before you guys answer the question. Just want to comment. It's pretty nice to know that you guys aren't going full 2008 Anchor protocol in what you guys are doing. So big props.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think in terms of the long-term roadmap, I would describe the vision as, staked ETH, ideally unshETH, should replace ETH in terms of all DeFi, all sort of financial applications. Basically, I don't see any reason why staked ETH shouldn't take the place of ETH, as long as there's a good liquid representation of it in terms of all activities. So let's say you're buying an NFT. Why not buy it with unshETH? If you sell the NFT, just sit in unshETH, and you're earning staking yield plus swap fees plus all kinds of other fees just holding unshETH. Let's say you want to borrow money. Again, if you're an ETH maxer, you never want to sell your ETH. You want to borrow money in order to pay for your bills or something. So then just borrow against unshETH, right? And then your sort of borrow fee is paid for by the staking yield. And so it's just kind of like, when you start thinking about what the future will look like in terms of the various financial applications as well as non-financial applications in which ETH will be used, it seems to me that if you can get ETH that's already staked and already earning a yield, that's obviously better than ETH that's not earning a yield. And we mostly just want to work towards that vision.
Mr. Producer, can you bring up unshETH as a co-host? I think they got dropped off. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not able. Yeah, I'm not able to bring them up.
All right, hey guys, I'm back.
Perfect, perfect. Mr. Producer, just send unshETH another co-host invite to bring them back up and all that. But yeah, I wanted to open it up to the audience. We've been going for close to 40 minutes now. I see we have David G, Nexus, and ZK Mike up here. So if you guys want to come on up, just click request to speak, and I'll bring you boys right on up. If you guys want to participate in the discussion and all things of the matter. Same thing goes for any of our audience. We're just having a general discussion with unshETH, and the topic is everything liquid staking derivatives on Ethereum and what they're building in the ecosystem. So, while we wait for that, if anyone wants to come up, um, I want to get a bit more personal here now. So, how was that journey like to build unshETH, and what were some of the problems that you guys have encountered while building out your product, and what solutions have you found to make these processes more fluid? You guys have had an incredible rise in TVL. You guys are obviously getting some traction, so I would really like to know your guys' story. So I guess we can start off with Altair.
Yeah, sure. So I've been a DeFi dev for a couple of years now, and actually the playbook for unshETH is taken directly from my playbook as an LSD dev, right? I kind of um, saw how difficult it was to get an LSD off the ground in terms of, doing the initial dance of user acquisition, acquiring TVL, and then sort of competing with other LSDs on fee structure. And I kind of just wanted to build a meta layer on top of LSDs, right? So that's kind of how I came up with the term LSD-Fi, because I wanted to make uh, building an LSD and acquiring users just easier for anyone who wants to do it, right? To create and operate an LSD is actually very simple, right? Anyone who knows how to basically spin up a server, use AWS, or maybe not use AWS, but use a decentralized solution, anyone can build an LSD, right? And if we want Ethereum to be maximally decentralized, then we should make it as easy as possible. So I pretty much just took some inspiration from my experience building an LSD, and tried to sort of create a launch pad type of product almost. And then on the other end, right? On the other end, I wanted to make sure that not only is this providing something for LSDs, but it should also be providing sort of the best yield for users, right? Because users typically, right, they don't actually care about decentralization. The way you sort of get them to care about it is by giving them something in exchange, right? And so we kind of try to find a way to provide the best yield to users in a sustainable way. Emphasis on sustainable, because again, I'm coming from, sort of being a lifelong DeFi dev, right? By lifelong, I mean 5 to 6 years. And I've seen versions upon versions of sort of unsustainable incentive mechanisms, right? So it was really important to me to sort of design our sort of growth hacking plan and our long-term growth trajectory in a way that relied on sustainable incentives and sort of sustainable ways of attracting, retaining, and growing TVL, right? We're not in the era of food farms anymore, right? You can't just throw a token at users and expect them to sit in your protocol forever, right? And playing the sort of game of renting mercenary liquidity is really just like a race to zero. So I kind of took my learnings and my PTSD and tried to shape it into something that's built to last. Yeah, I think I want to pass it over to Wagmi now to share his side because he comes from a totally different corner of the industry.
Yeah, so it's been a very interesting journey so far with unshETH. Yeah, so my background is I come from traditional finance. Yeah, I've been sort of in the, call it, portfolio construction, risk mitigation, macro trading type of stuff. That's sort of my background, and I really got into crypto over the last couple years, contributing to a number of DeFi protocols as well as yeah, doing my own sort of DEX trading and things of that sort, like automated stuff. And yeah, when I saw unshETH, I really saw this opportunity to really build something unique and new that was missing in the space, which is a, a easy to use distribution mechanism for millions of new users to access staked Ether. So far, the best distribution mechanism that I've seen so far is probably Coinbase, which is, anyone with a Coinbase account stakes their ETH and then they get Coinbase ETH. And that's sort of been the simplest on ramp into staking Ether. But unfortunately, as we've learned, that's a fairly centralized solution, and it doesn't help, um, you know, help us achieve the sort of decentralized goal that we want. And yeah, I thought maybe unshETH could be that sort of future, call it the one-stop shop that everyone goes to stake their Ether, and the first thing that people think about when they think about Ether. And I thought that'd be very cool to come build. So yeah, in terms of challenges, I think probably the most um, challenging, or call it like the difficult to navigate thing, is that sort of going from the degen universe and to call it the more institutional universe and sort of managing that, um, call it, balance. Yeah, so when we started unshETH, it's been very much driven by the community. You've got sort of degens aping in their ETH to this brand new yield farm. Initially, it was unaudited. We ended up for our V2 making sure we got audits and sort of going more and more legit as we go. Because yeah, I mean, like you can easily get from 0 to 50 million with just to call it the degen crowd. But to go from 50 million to like multi-billion, which is what we want to get to, it takes a little bit more. And sort of, yeah, we're working on that now, establishing our product in the center of the ecosystem, doing spaces like this one. We want to be at the forefront of every conversation regarding liquid staking. We want to improve our security posture. We want to get more audits. We want to do code, call it like bug hunting competitions, things of that sort. Because I think the only thing that's potentially holding us back now is that we're so brand new, and people will obviously go to a more trusted, call it older, more established DeFi protocol as opposed to a brand new one if they're gonna, essentially stake their ETH. So yeah, I guess that's the transition that we're all navigating now, and yeah, I would say it's challenging and interesting and been pretty exciting so far.
Man, what I mentioned, brother, is that something that you guys are doing, which I find very, very bullish, is that you guys are interacting with various protocols in the digital asset space. You guys are doing spaces with guys like Layer Zero Labs, and like I mentioned earlier, um, you guys have been doing spaces with Anchor. I put something up on the Nest so users, my bad, not users, sorry about that, guys. The audience here can take a listen to the content that you guys have produced. Posted up on the Nest the recent space you guys had, again with Anchor, Statter, Swell Network, Parallax Finance. So you guys are really interacting with other communities and really getting engaged and providing a lot of value. And I find Twitter Spaces to be this virtual summit, and I believe Wagme, me and you have spoken privately about this prior to the space. Is that Twitter Spaces can be this virtual summit where the audience members can have that same quality as they would in a conference, right? In a conference, your typical purse size at least is like $5,000-6,000 when you take into account room and board, your ticket, your flight. It's quite hefty, and you're in a crowded auditorium, and your favorite dev, community thought leader, founder, what have you, um, in a panel of 5 people, 4 people, they would only have a few minutes of mic time, and there's no meet and greet. You can't really, raise up your hand and have your question answered. It's always the guys from larger media companies like a CoinDesk, right? Don't mean to FUD them or anything, but the little guy never gets a chance to participate in that conversation. So with what you guys are doing with these more older protocols, it's quite unique, and it gives individuals like myself and people in the audience a new experience. And I think building up that social capital early on is very, very beneficial. But we're kind of pressed on time here, so I'll move on over to Nexus. Nexus, what's going on, brother? I don't believe we've spoken since, geez, man, might I say since like the summertime, like soon after the Terra collapse. What's going on, brother? Good to have you here. How you feeling, man?
I'm good. I'm good. A bit jet lagged, so I don't have a ton to add. But yeah, I've been good, man. I think it was about like maybe a month after Luna when the dust was still settling a bit. But yeah, it's good to talk to you guys. And I had one quick question though. It was for I didn't catch your name, but the unshETH guy.
Altair?
Oh, okay, yes. So I was wondering, like you mentioned that you designed the tokenomics to stand the test of time, and that yeah, we're not in the food farm era anymore. What were some of the key things that you thought about while creating the tokenomics design?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I took a lot of inspiration from the VE model, and obviously the VE model was pioneered by Curve back in 2020, and was subsequently adopted by projects like Stargate, Balancer, and Timeless most recently. I think Balancer made some pretty cool improvements upon the VE model, specifically by locking the LP, right? Locking an 80/20 LP, you give sort of a much better exposure to people who are locking your governance token because, well, it's yield bearing. Uh, it's yield bearing. It has the same effect of locking up the underlying, but it ensures that, hey, if 50%, 60%, 70% of the token is locked up, it's still liquid. So we kind of wanted to start off from that like VE tokenomics model because it's been proven to work, right, or for any sort of liquidity market. What we added to this was the governance sort of mining co-incentives, which is basically the idea that multiple protocols will sort of be subsidizing this yield. It's not just us. Now, why are they doing it? It's because us is creating value for all of them. So this has a twofold effect, right? First is everyone who sort of has the governance token and wants to actually be able to govern, they're sort of incentivized to um, take a position in the long run. And really, the longer they lock it, the more voting power they have, right? So that sort of makes it a long-term, I guess, asset, right? Not that we can take any views on price or liquidity or anything like that. Um, the second sort of consequence of this model is that it's no longer it's no longer just us who is trying to generate yield, or sorry, no, provide incentives for us stakers, right? It's really the entire LSD community that is coming together and that is providing value. So we've already sort of adopted this approach when it comes to sort of phasing out our sort of traditional 2020 style pool too, right? We have aura incentives, we have balancer incentives. So we're really just trying to embrace what it means to be a community owned project, and sort of also reaping the benefits of that, um, when it comes to being able to reduce our emissions, reduce our inflations, but still provide sort of a long term value proposition to our community. Does that sort of make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was a great answer. And I imagine it makes it quite a bit easier to not that it's not like very well thought out and everything, but that it's not something that is kind of just masquerading as something providing value. It's an actual uh net benefit to the space, and um yeah, it seems like it all ties in really nicely.
Exactly. I mean, the more people who sort of believe that this does provide value, the more sort of protocols and communities will be throwing their weight and their incentives behind this. So, we're all sort of in this together.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the few or one of the first few like um protocols with like very solid product market fit from the get-go. So congrats on that.
Thank you very much.
Guys, I want to take the time to say that if you guys are enjoying this conversation with unshETH and what they have to say about all things liquid staking derivatives, be sure to give them a follow. And also, if you guys enjoy content like this, my name's Wabi. I host spaces like these all the time with devs, protocol founders, community thought leaders around different narratives, being NFTs, DeFi, more gigabrain stuff like layer zeros and roll ups and all that stuff that I'm still trying to get into. Feel free to follow us here at Because Bitcoin. It really means the world to me. When you guys follow and keep up to date with all these spaces. Sometimes I'll host these spaces like 2 or 3 times a day. And just as a heads up, Altair. No. Was it Altair? Yeah, I think it was. It was Altair who participated in the spaces that we hosted last Friday with Eigenlayer, and that was some pretty intellectual discussion between the two. So, like I said, with these spaces, they're all live streams from our YouTube, and you can all catch the recordings over there. If you click on the live right when you get to the Because Bitcoin homepage, and you click on the Crypto World Radio playlist, just scroll all the way down until you see Eigenlayer at the start, and you'll be able to tune into that. But I want to thank you guys for showing up for our third spaces of the day. It wasn't actually our fourth; it was our third spaces of the day. I want to thank you guys for showing up, and also for Altair and Wagme for having the patience, to bear with us. I know we started a few minutes late, so thank you so much to Altair and Wagme for this very educational discussion about what they're building in the digital asset space. And yeah, feel free to follow them. They're pretty active on socials, and like I said, sometimes they'll do these mega spaces, and potentially, for our next space, we can collaborate on that. And happy to see what they build. Chase, I saw that you requested to speak. So Chase, if you want to come on up, I'll bring you right on up, brother. Before we wrap up, let me do that for you, brother. Hold on. Okay, I think he's a speaker now. Chase, what's going on, man? Thank you for taking the time to come on up. Oh, did he connect as a speaker? And did he drop off, guys? Yeah, he did. He did. Okay. All right. No problem. No problem. Well, yeah. I guess the last question I have for you guys is, where can people keep up with what you guys are doing, and how can individuals in the digital asset space help out with what you guys are building?
Yeah, just follow our Twitter. We usually post all our major updates there. We also usually host weekly spaces. So yeah, just mainly be sure to tune into our Twitter. Check out our website, unshETH.xyz, if you are interested in actually using the protocol. And yeah, that's the main stuff. And join our Discord. Yeah, if you have any questions, if you want to chat with some of the team members, if you want to chat with the community, yeah, join the Discord and check it out.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank
emphasis on use the protocol, unshETH your ETH.
you. Chase, if you want to come on up and ask your question before we close off the space, brother, we'll give it a few moments. Yeah, I think he's good, guys. I think he's good. Yeah. Oh, all right, Chase. Yeah, he's giving me the thumbs up. Okay, okay. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. We'll be having our last space of the day in about an hour and a half at 8 p.m. Eastern time with Magoo. That's going to be more of a casual space, guys. Just talking about all things price action, really broader market stuff, and really just kicking it on a Friday night, man. And then for Saturday, we're going to be having a spaces with some of the people from the Arbitrum ecosystem, like CeeLo Finance and somebody else. It escapes me off the top of my head, but be sure to tune into that. And then for Sunday, we have our innovation spaces with Caldera, and they're building some pretty cool stuff on the OP stack. So yeah, guys, and also be sure to follow unshETH, and looking forward to having them on these spaces in the future. Thank you all so much. Take care. God bless you, and take care, guys.
Thank you for having us again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm going to get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians. You would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000, depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community.